the Let the Citizens Know platform so as to provide regular updates on all our activities to the citizenry. Of course, it will not be as frequent as it was in 2020, but we can assure you that whenever some of our activities are ongoing, we will use the occasion and the platform of the Let the Citizen Know to update the citizenry and to receive some of your questions. Distinguished friends from the media, today's Let the Citizen Know platform will be used to provide a review of the 2020 election and to address some of the allegations that have been leveled against the Electoral Commission and the election by the former president of Ghana. Our Deputy Chairman, Dr. Bosman Asari, will address this edition of the Let the Citizen Know platform on behalf of the Commission. Thereafter, we will take things from there. So we entreat you to exercise patience and to receive an update on the election as well as responses to the allegations leveled against the Commission and the 2020 election by our former president. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for your brief introductory remarks. And as we heard from the introductory remarks, the presentation would be made by the Deputy Chair of the Commission in charge of Corporate Services, Dr. Bosman Asari. So, press, men and women, colleagues, everyone, the focus is now on Dr. Bosman Asari. Please help me appreciate him as he gets ready to come. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the press. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the press. The Electoral Commission is very grateful for the support you continually provide in the dissemination of its programs to the good people of our dear country. More especially, we applaud you for your display of professionalism during the 2020 presidential and parliamentary elections. Indeed, you helped the Commission to demystify all the processes in the elections, from the registration of voters to the declaration of the results in all the 275 parliamentary elections and the presidential election. This edition of Let the Citizen Know is aimed at providing an update on the 2020 elections and addressing a number of allegations that have been leveled against the Commission by the former president who led the NDC in the 2020 presidential election. I will begin by providing a brief overview of the 2020 elections. Let me state that the 2020 elections have been hailed globally as transparent and successful for the orderly and efficient manner they were conducted in spite of the global COVID-19 pandemic. The elections began with the replacement of an entire biometric voter management solution, that is the software and the hardware comprising biometric verification devices and biometric voter registration kits. It took the Commission only 6 months to conduct the entire electoral process, from the preparation of a new biometric register on the 30th of June 2020 to the declaration of the results on 9th December 2020. This was because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and yet the entire process came off without a hitch. In spite of the projections of the spread of COVID-19 and deaths, there was no spread of the virus. This was due to the stringent safety practices put in place by the Electoral Commission. In all our 38,622 polling stations across the country, there was sufficient supply of personal protective equipment throughout the entire electoral cycle. We were able to register more than 17 million people in just 38 days, despite projections of voter apathy and low turnout due to the pandemic. We ensured that our registration centers were placed at the doorstep of all eligible Ghanaians, making it possible for any person who so desired to do so. The recent 2021 population and housing census have confirmed the effectiveness of our registration process. Out of a population of 30.8 million, the 17 million plus were registered. This represents 55% of the population and puts Ghana ahead of the ECOWAS countries, except Cape Verde, which has a population of less than 1 million. The average registered voters in ECOWAS countries is 40%. So Ghana has really done very, very well. Note that the registration took place in the midst of COVID-19. To demystify the operations of the Commission, and in the spirit of transparency and accountability, we organize weekly engagements with the citizens under the platform Let the Citizen Know. For the first time in our history, commissioners themselves provided regular updates directly to the citizens of our country. As a result, the secrecy and suspicion that characterized our work was reduced. This helped build confidence in our processes and reduce the tension that surrounded our work and elections. For example, during the registration, the Commission provided regular figures on demographics to Ghanaians, such as male-female ratio, youth, persons with disabilities, etc. So transparent was our process that anyone could, on a weekly basis, calculate the number of registered voters across board. This was not the case previously. Again, in spite of the fact that this was an entirely new register, there were no incidents of missing names on elections day, unlike previous elections when people went to the polling stations but could not find their names. The presidential candidates of the two major political parties, the NDC and the MPP, also attested to the effectiveness of the registration exercise. For the first time in our history, we were able to reduce the cost of elections per voter from $13.34 in 2016 to $7.70 in 2020, and saved over 500 million Ghana cedis, or 90 million US dollars, at a time when the cost of elections the world over was rising. The savings were made in spite of the purchase of huge numbers of COVID-19 items, which were in no short supply in all the 38,622 polling stations, and in spite of the fact that, unlike in 2016, we paid full taxes on all our items. It is important to note that we also created an additional 10,000 polling stations and still were able to reduce the cost of the elections. This was achieved through prudent procurement practices which favored open, competitive tendering rather than single and restrictive sourcing. Again, for the first time, the elections were fully funded by the government of Ghana with no donor support. Yet another first, we did not experience the long queues at our 38,622 polling stations as in previous elections. By 1 p.m., most centers were near empty, as voters had already voted well before the 5 p.m. deadline. Again, for the first time in our history, there were no shortages of election materials anywhere in all the 38,622 polling stations. Even in advanced cities like Berlin in Germany, in a recent election, materials ran out, leading to delays. Again, we reduced the voting time from 10 to 12 minutes to 3 to 5 minutes. Furthermore, we declared the results in a record 48 hours. We also created another layer of transparency and scrutiny by the introduction of the Regional Collation Center. This enabled all the party agents to verify constituency presidential results the second time before signing and forwarding them to the National Collation Center. We are reliably informed that the agents at the Regional Collation Center were professionals. NDC, for example, had seasoned lawyers at the Regional Collation Centers throughout the country. It is important to note that the introduction of the facial verification, in addition to the verification of the fingerprints, significantly reduced the percentage of manual verification. Previously, this was a source of concern to the Commission. Of the over 13.4 million persons who voted on December 7th, more than 99.9% of them were verified through either fingerprint or facial recognition biometric verification, an indication that the Commission took the right decision to introduce the facial recognition feature to our verification process. Nationally, only 11,050 people were manually verified. We are determined to ensure this statistically insignificant figure is further reduced in future elections. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this in a nutshell provides the significant developments of the 2020 elections. Distinguished citizens, in the last few weeks, former President Mahama has made a number of allegations against the Electoral Commission and the 2020 elections. As officials charged with the responsibility of conducting elections in Ghana, we owe it a duty to provide Ghanaians with the facts and the truth about the elections and the allegations raised. We are of the view that our silence on these false allegations could have dire consequences as it could undermine citizens' confidence in our dear country. The former president has said the EC printed 1 million ballot papers in favor of the President of the Republic. This is untrue. This is a grave matter that undermines the credibility of our electoral process and should not be ignored. We call on him to provide evidence to support this claim. This is not a matter that should be ignored, and we call on the Ghana Police Service to investigate. The transparency of our process makes it totally impossible for this to happen. At the polling stations, prior to the start of the elections, the empty ballot boxes are opened and displayed in the presence of everyone, including the political party agents, and thereafter they are sealed in the presence of everyone. There are serial numbers on the ballot papers for each region and constituency. This is made known to the agents before the elections, and the political parties also know this. Our ballot papers also have security features, so any trace of new material will be clearly visible. Again, at the end of the poll, the ballots cast are cross-checked against the voters who were verified and issued the ballot papers. This ensures that overvoting is detected immediately, because if at the center 20 people were issued the ballots, we expect that the ballot box will contain 20. Nationwide, we had no issue with overvoting at all the 38,622 polling stations, except in Savelugu in the parliamentary election, where there was one, and I repeat, one overvoting. The transparency of our processes from the beginning to the end makes this impossible. Ballot staffing cannot be done. It is just impossible. We call on the former president, in the interest of our democracy, to provide evidence of the staffing of the ballot boxes by the EC and its officials. The police should investigate this as a matter of urgency due to its potential to derail and undermine our democracy and lead to a lack of confidence in our system and processes. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the former president has alleged that the military influenced the declaration and announcement of election results. This is also false. It never happened. Nowhere did the military influence the declaration and announcement of results. It is not true. The 2020 processes were widely participatory. The media, local and international observers, as well as ordinary citizens, participated in the elections. The results declared and announced at the polling stations and collation center were a true reflection of the will of the Ghanaian people. The media and observers also picked their data right from the ground, directly from the 38,622 polling stations and the collation centers, and the results were no different from what the EC declared. To buttress the fact that the results were a reflection of the will of the people, it is important to indicate that all the major networks, Peace FM, UTV, OKFM, Adum FM, Adum TV, Joy News, Angel FM, Kesbin FM, Sky News, GBC, Achinka Media, and all the major networks, City FM, collected their own results. And it was the same as what the EC declared. These networks called the election for the President of the Republic before the EC declared. The parallel voter tabulation employed by Kodeyo also confirmed the results declared by the Electoral Commission. We call on the good people of Ghana to disregard this allegation of the military influencing the declaration and announcement of results, as it is false and untrue. In the interest of our democracy, we call on the former president to provide evidence of where the influence by the military occurred. We have also noted that the former president has called the 2020 elections the worst election. We refute a scoring. The good people of Ghana who experience our processes are the best judges. Their testimonies on social media and elsewhere demonstrated that Ghanaians were highly satisfied with the 2020 elections. Additionally, the 2020 elections have been held locally and globally as highly transparent, fair, credible, and inclusive. World over, scientific methods are used to measure the success or otherwise of elections. International and local observers who use scientific, internationally accepted methods to measure the quality of elections have confirmed that the elections were transparent, credible, and highly successful. It is not a wonder that the internationally recognized European Union International Observer Mission, which has a track record of elections observation across the world, scored the 2020 elections 95%. Once again, we refute the ranking given by the former president and state that on the basis of scientific evidence, the 2020 elections will go down as the best in the history of this great republic. It will be important to note the scientific tools used by the former president to reach this particular conclusion. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, once more, the former president has accused the EC of being responsible for the violence that took place at Techiman. We state for the records that the violence was not caused as a result of the EC or its staff. More importantly, the EC is not responsible for security as the former president sought to portray. Nowhere in our laws or in the Constitution, security one of the functions of the EC. To lay security lapses at the doorstep of the EC is unfortunate. While we sympathize with the family members of the deceased, we reject any attempt to associate violence with us. Again, we call on the former president in the interest of our democracy to provide evidence that the EC orchestrated the violence. In Techiman, for example, one of the radio stations asked the town folks to go to the coalition center to protect the ballot for the NDC parliamentary candidate. This is what led to the chaos that ensued at the coalition center in Techiman. Our regional and district officials indicated that, but for the presence of the security personnel, they would probably not be here today. In Savelugu, the violence occurred at the polling station, not at the Electoral Commission's polling station or the coalition center. None of them had anything to do with the conduct of our officials. Therefore, to blame the EC for the violence portrays a deliberate attempt to malign and impugn on the integrity of the commission. Whilst we collaborated with the security agencies under the platform of the Election Security Task Force, our responsibility was to conduct the elections, and we did that creditably. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the former president has also said that the elections were fraudulent. This is not true. The elections were fair, transparent, credible, and this has been attested to by local and international observers, as well as by the General Secretary of the NDC. After the declaration of the results, the NDC initially challenged the elections by stating that the elections were rigged and that they had won. But they went to the Supreme Court alleging no one had won. However, throughout the proceedings at the court, they were not able to provide any pink sheet or any single pink sheet to support their claim of fraudulent elections. In the full glare of Ghanaians, when the General Secretary of the NDC was asked about the figures to support the petitioner's claim that no one won the election, he said he did not come to challenge the validity of the results. When the General Secretary was also asked to tabulate the results during cross-examination, he confirmed that indeed the president actually won the presidential election with more than 50% plus one of the votes. The two main political parties had at least 2 agents at all the polling stations representing the interests of their presidential and parliamentary candidates. The commission did not receive any reports from the party agents complaining of fraud by the EC officials. As the saying goes, he who alleges must provide the proof. The NDC had this fine opportunity to provide evidence to support their claim of rigged elections. They failed to do so. They did not provide a single pink sheet as earlier stated. Finally, we have on several occasions heard the former president state that the chairperson has been running away from accountability. This is false. The EC is an institution. Aside, for the former president to equate the entire institution to the chairperson is an attempt to malign her and cause disaffection for her. As an institution, we account to the good people of Ghana through the Special Budget Committee of Parliament, and we have done so. And we report regularly. We do not account to individuals. We do not account to presidential candidates. The Constitution does not permit that. For the information of the public, before and after the election, the EC officials held meetings with the Special Budget Committee for our stewardship. We continue to do this. Furthermore, the Supreme Court is not the platform for the EC. It's not the platform for the EC to account to the people of Ghana. As far as elections are concerned, the Supreme Court is a court for settling presidential election disputes, as stated in Article 63(3) of the 1992 Constitution. This is why the former president took us to court. After the evidence adduced by the three witnesses of the petitioner, it became evident that the petitioner had no credible evidence to support his claim. Indeed, the General Secretary of the NDC said they did not come to court to challenge the validity of the election. In fact, there was no single evidence to support their claim that no one won the presidential election. Our lawyers were of the view that the witnesses had not provided credible evidence during cross-examination on which the chairperson could be cross-examined. In their view, there was no need to respond, and they asked the court to decide the matter based on the evidence adduced by the petitioner's witnesses. Ghanaians watched the proceedings and saw that the petitioner and his witnesses did not tender any evidence, as the General Secretary, in an answer to a judge, indicated that they did not bring any figures to court, and that they did not come to court with any figures, neither did they come to challenge the validity of the results. In any case, where a person goes to court and accuses another person of wrongdoing, and the person accused chooses not to respond, shouldn't the accuser go home a happy person? In conclusion on this subject, we wish to state that the EC is mindful of its obligations to account for its stewardship to the good people of Ghana through Parliament, and we will continue to do so. The Commission is concerned about the attempt to undermine and malign the state institution that has been at the forefront of championing the country's electoral democracy. The Commission does not determine who wins or who wins elections in Ghana. The people of Ghana actually do. The Electoral Commission has never wavered in our belief that a great work was done in 2020, and this has been supported by Ghanaians who voted in 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Commission, we want to say thank you for coming to support us. Thank you very much.
Right. I think Dr. Osman deserves another round of applause. Also, people delivering, election delivery. Thank you so much, sir. We will allow for a few questions. We just have one round of questions, maximum of 3 questions. And so whoever wants to ask a question can come forward. I see one hand here. Any other? 1, 2, 3. Okay, come. You ask me one question. You don't ask me one question. Yeah, so go ahead. Mention your name, transition your business, and then you have to go.
My name is Nathaniel ABC. So, Dr. Osman, we've listened to you tell us, give us a brief of how the election was going. And it appears you didn't say, we didn't hear you speak of not even a single challenge. And so is it the case that there was no challenge at all from your side? Because even before the election, you were told that the results will be announced 24 hours after voting. And we saw that it was announced 48 hours after. So we didn't know any challenge. This is a case that there was no challenge.
The point is made. Right.
This is invited, calling on the police to investigate our petition. Is it the case that you are writing a petition to police so that they can take it further, and we are just waiting as they are there for the police to take over?
Okay.
My name is Vexatious. I work for CTFM and CTTV. The citizens have a lot of questions, but we are restricted. In addition to the question on the police, yes, God. In addition to whether you have specifically written to the police or you will be writing, on the issue of you not responding to presidential candidates, is that healthy if the referee in the game says it is not to account to leaders of political parties? Is it not a kind of position that will create certain impression among certain political parties, to the extent that they think that the EC has closed its doors to the concerns of major stakeholders?
So we will respond to the 3 questions.
Let's do this. I think the first questioner was asking about no challenge. I think historically the commission has been declaring results in 72 hours, but the commission took upon itself to be able to declare in 48 hours. We don't see that as a challenge per se. We aimed at doing it much earlier, and we're able to do it within 48 hours. So as a commission, going forward, we'll still look at the measures that must be put in place so that we can achieve that. But the 48 hours we're able to do is even a record. So we hope to build upon that in future elections. Then the second person was asking, investigate the former president. What the commission is basically saying is that the former president has made certain allegations which border on the integrity of our electoral processes. And the commission is saying that those things did not happen. So it will be in the interest of the good people of Ghana for the Ghana Police Service to act on that. And we are beseeching the police service to look into it. Then I think the gentleman from CTFM, Mr. Sister Sulu. I think, let me use this opportunity to state that the Electoral Commission is accountable to all Ghanaians. We are accountable to all Ghanaians. But we know Ghanaians have their representatives in Parliament. So we are accountable to Ghanaians through their representatives. Constitutionally, we are not accountable to any individual. Even as a commission, we are not accountable to the President of the Republic. We deal with the representatives of the people in Parliament. So please, if anyone needs anything from the commission, you write to us. But in terms of accountability, we deal with Parliament. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you. All too soon we come to the end of this encounter, and we will call on Mr. Samuel Tete, the teacher operations, to give us just closing remarks.
Joy wanted to ask questions.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, and all of you are here. It's been a pleasure being with you this evening. The main issues why we actually came here have been addressed by Osman. We know that the Commission organized the best elections in the country so far. We look at the circumstances under which the elections were held, and the COVID environment, the achievements of the 2020 elections have also been hammered. The allegations by the former president have also been refuted. But my major concern and that of the Commission is the 1 million votes which he alleges have been printed. And all along, we know the transparency of the electoral process. We, as a commission, haven't changed any aspect of this transparency. It has been there, it is there, and it's not going to be changed. Political party agents were at the printing houses 24 hours, security maximum, we have the police, the national security, and all that. How can we print about 1 million ballots, and where are we sending? And that is exactly what the commission is actually demanding. It has never happened. 1 million votes. Where are you sending? How can you? Their agents were also there. So the media has always been playing an important role. Some of them continue to play very important role. They ask very relevant questions. When some of these allegations are raised, we will continue to dwell on the media that every time these allegations are raised, they should also have the guts to actually ask certain questions as to why they are raising those allegations. We thank you very much for coming, and we believe that all the issues which were raised in the public domain have actually been answered. Thank you, and we will continue to address you anytime we have some of these issues.
Right, okay. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Yes, we will have the closing prayer by Dr. Tebu one more time. We shall be on our feet as we offer the prayer.
Father, we thank you once again for giving this opportunity. Lord, we know with you all things are possible. That was we know that we cannot do anything without your command. We know the fight is yours. We will continue to count on you and submit ourselves to your guidance. Continue to protect us and guide us. Give us the strength. Let us succeed in doing whatever you have called us to do. We know you are accountable to you. And we continue to plead to you because we know with you you succeed in our endeavors. So we are going back to our various very able to our people. Protect us, guide us. We will continue to remain in all things faithful. We are
Right. Please, brothers and sisters from the media, please hold on and just stay behind when after the